Hello and welcome to the YouTube channel of mprugs.com. My name is Mike Pana. I'm the moderator in the series of videos that is all about Persian rugs and carpets from around the world. And in this video, I want to introduce you to 3 generations of Gomrugs from the holy city of Gom in Iran. Now the Gomrugs are known for being they're famous for the pure silk type, like the ones that you see behind me. But there's also a wool rug production. But what is special about this video is that I have literally three generations of Gomrugs. And these are perfect examples of how the rug weaving in Iran, what used to be Persia, how it has evolved. You went from, these are 3 pieces. The one that I'm sitting on right here, it looks like a Tabriz, an old, maybe a Mahi rug, but it's actually a Gomrug. Then there is to my left a beautiful, very well preserved, semi-antique Gomrug. And to my right is a pure silk Gomrug. This would be modern. So you have basically a piece that is like brand new. You have a 60-year-old piece that's between 60 to right about 80. I think it's about, I would say close to 70. And then you have the granddaddy right here that the chair is on. This piece right here, it's a wool rug. It is Gom. It's at least, we're guesstimating between 100 to 120 years old. But I'm going to show you, when I get behind the camera, the differences in the weaving techniques, how the silk has evolved. So you can get a little bit of a feel. There are some people who really like the antique and the older pieces. Then there are those who like the more modern, the newer pieces. It's just like, for example, in cars. I personally am not a big fan of old timers. I'm not a big fan of the old cars. I like modern. But my dad, on the other hand, you showed him an old Cadillac or an old Mercedes, and he was just gushing. He was just absolutely in love. He liked the older ones, I preferred the newer ones. Well, the same here. They are very different types of rugs. But instead of a lot of people wanting to argue about which is better, they're all beautiful in their own rights. So I'm actually going to show you now 3 generations, and you can see how the weaving technique and how the rug weaving, the rug making, the dyes, the colors, the silk, how everything has changed a little bit. So I think this is a great video to show you how basically the evolution of Persian rugs. So I'm going to see you again here in just a second. So here I am again, as always, from behind the camera. And to get things started, right here in front of you, to your left, you have a brand new, this is a new pure silk Gomrug, hunting design, very classic. This is what you would expect to see in the stores. And just to show you, in the back on the wall, we have a larger piece. These are beautiful pure silk. They typically start at about 400 knots per square inch, and they can go all the way up to 1,000. Some of the really fine art pieces, like the Jamshidis, I mean, you can even go like 1,200 or 1,400 knots per square inch. And that is what you would typically find nowadays. This is a brand new piece. You can see it by the colors, by the silk. It shines at you, very detailed, very fine. But this is what you would expect to see. To the right is a hunting design. And you'll see instantly, it has that almost like patina look to it. This is also pure silk, but what separates the old ones from the newer ones is that in a lot of old pieces, you still had what is known as the Turkish knot. The old Gom silk rugs, the old Gomrugs, were heavily influenced by the weavers in the Azerbaijan, the Tabriz, the Turkish areas, and they used what is known as a Turkish knot, whereas the new Gomrugs are woven with what is known as Persian knot. They're both fine. There are some people who like to argue back and forth, and I can see that sometimes in the comments section. But basically, a Turkish knot is also how I tie my shoes. It's a double knot. Whereas a Persian knot is a single knot. They are both high quality. They're both, the double knot, the Turkish, is more durable. But here's the thing. If you have a silk rug, chances are you are not going to be stepping on it and throwing parties on it as you would if it was a wool rug. So whether you have a double knotted piece or a single knotted piece, they're both basically going to outlive you because these are treated like art pieces. Most of the time, my clients like to hang these on walls. But in the old days, the pure silk Gomrugs, a lot of them had this Turkish knot. And what you will find, for example, when you flip them over, here is new versus older. You will see that the older pieces are not as fine as the newer pieces. The Persian knot allows closer density, versus the Turkish knot, it really doesn't. You also find that the older pieces, much heavier, thicker. You can see that in the thickness between the new piece and the old piece. But having said that, there is nothing wrong with this. This is an old school weaving technique. This is modern. This is old. They're both, it just, to me, there are some people who make a big deal about comparing them, and you really cannot. It's like comparing apples with oranges. Yes, this is the daddy who had a son, and the son used what is known as the internet versus the old man who used faxes, telegrams, and letters. Now, I'm not going to call the old man stupid for not using the internet. They didn't have it back then. So to all of you out there who want to always feel the need to say that the older is better than the newer or vice versa, let me just say this. This is my type of rug. This is my daddy's type of rug. And we both appreciate the fact that we like them all. But you can see the differences in the weaving technique. This is basically influenced. The older pieces are heavily influenced by the weavers that came from what they call Azerbaijan, from the northwestern corners of Iran. So a lot of that came from there. So you have father and son side by side. Well, the granddaddy, who's lying on the floor, this is an old Gomrug. Now, it does not have the hunting design. And those are rare in the old days. But this piece, we just got it right now, and I thought this was just absolutely perfect. We had them professionally cleaned. And this piece right here is about 100 to 120 years old, right about 1900. But this is how the majority of old rugs in Gom were woven. This is actually wool. This is not silk. Most of the remaining Gom rugs, the ones that date back to right about 1900 and older, Most of them were wool rugs, not silk. And the weaving technique was very much influenced by the weavers from the Azerbaijan areas. These were oftentimes, like in this case, double knotted. So you have the fine Turkish knot. These are extremely fine pieces. But this right here is a gorgeous, beautiful, well-preserved example of what an antique Gomrug is all about. I'm just going to show it to you right here. You can see how the colors have faded. Well, this is all vegetable dye. And basically, and I can actually see that here in 3 stages. You can see how in the video, how the colors are changing. Basically, in the old days, when they would color the wool, they would take the vegetable dyes, they would then soak the wool, basically produce the colors, and then they would weave the rugs. Well, obviously, the wool that was used here came from a different batch than the one above. Now, if you looked at this rug 20, 60, 70 years ago, you would have seen a color that is uniform up and down throughout the whole rug. And I'm just going to switch it here. And you can also see the patina. You can see the aging. I mean, this is what the collectors of antique rugs, this is what they're looking for. But here you have a perfect example. This batch of dyed wool, aged differently than the rest. And this is actually very, very common. I'm just going to swing the camera around here. We have an old Tabriz on the wall. And you can also see the same thing. You have the right side aging differently than the center and the left. And this is what you get on old rugs where you have vegetable dyes. The wool was, this right here is a different batch of wool than the center. And in the old days, this was common. This rug looked completely uniform. The same thing here as I swing the camera back over. This center looked all the same. But over the decades, as you can see, the air, oxygen, the lighting, everything affects the rug, the wool. But this is what an antique, a very old Gomrug would look like. This is a perfect example. So back then, majority of the rugs made in Gom were wool. They then developed, became popular for the silk rugs. And this is typically, I want to say about 1930. That's when you will see a lot of production switching from wool to silk, as Gom also became more prevalent as the holy city, and it's a very important city in the Shia religion. It's considered to be like basically the holy city in Iran. And so a lot of it, the rug weaving switched from wool to silk. And here you have Turkish knot wool, you have Turkish knot silk, and then you have modern day pure silk Persian knot. So there you have it. I thought it was really neat. We happen to have the 3 rugs here open at the same time in the warehouse, and I thought this would just be a perfect opportunity for me to show you what grandpa, daddy, and son look like. Or I should not be sexist. This could also be a grandmother and a mom and a daughter. So you have 3 generations of beautiful Persian rugs, all made in the city of Gom by some very talented weavers, but 3 very different rugs. So here you have it, 3 generations. I hope you liked this video. Feel free to subscribe or visit us at mprugs.com if you have any questions, and we look forward to reading your comments and putting more videos as soon as we can. Best wishes from all of us. Take care. Bye-bye.